This is the Being Your Own CEO Success Circle, and this morning we're going to be talking about confidence. My name is Lolan, and in my coaching and consulting work, I help solopreneurs stay focused and motivated as we take their business to the next level with some simple structures and some very easy techniques and technology. So we'll be right back right after this. So greetings wherever you are, and welcome to the Being Your Own CEO. This is a weekly success circle intended as a support to solopreneurs. We get together because we enjoy each other's company, but we also like exchanging ideas and information and lots of experimenting. We all give and receive support. You can discover what we stand for by reviewing our operating principles on my page. And I might mention here, I have moved all of the Success Circle material over to a new website called beingyourownCEO.com. I want to welcome our viewers on the page on my website and invite them to check in by telling us where they are and what they do, and to throw in any questions or comments that they feel motivated to do. So now it's time to have our members in the panel introduce themselves. Please briefly tell us your name and where you are and what you do, and something very short about something new for you or a discovery. So let's see. Well, I usually begin with whoever got here first. So this morning, that was Fred. So how would you like to introduce yourself, Fred?
Yes, hello, and thank you very much. I'm Fred Jones, the creator of Our Future Leaders, where I assist young people to learn communication and self-confidence as well, because they're facing a future that is really changing dramatically. And with that, the online sessions that I've been setting up have been very helpful, and I'm looking forward to getting some moderators. That's my next challenge, to teach moderators how to set up these sessions. I'm currently located, normally I'm located in Victoria, where Loan is, but today I'm in Redlands in Southern California. I return to Victoria tomorrow. So we'll be back on Vancouver Island. So that's what I'm up to.
So now, Fred, are you going to be close enough where it'll be convenient for us to meet for coffee? Because we've giggled before about how we live in the same town. We've never met face to face.
Yes, I'm sure I will be. I'll be in Esquimalt for next week, and then Vic West for for a few more weeks. Yeah, okay. So the next few weeks we'll be around. Yeah.
Okay, right on. We'll have to.
It'd be a pleasure to meet you face to face.
No kidding. And just for the benefit of, I guess everybody else was here except Anna last week when Fred shared the fact that he got to actually meet Roland Takahoko face to face. So
I spent some good time with Roland. It was wonderful.
yeah, that's cool. Oh dear. I love some of the things that happen here, um, and the people we meet and how we meet people online. I think is just awesome. So thanks for being here, and look forward to seeing you. So Vivek, I think you were next.
Namaste. My name is Vivek, and Vivek Technology is my brand. Um, I believe in living a simple life. I believe in simplicity. I'm proud to share my belief with Steve Jobs and Leonardo da Vinci, who said simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. So, my aim is to simplify everything for everyone. So, simplify, unify, amplify life.
Boy, all that alliteration. That's great. Oh, so welcome here, Vivek.
Yeah, I have had a couple of interesting days and that illustrated to me the human connection we have and we have to have,
mhm,
without which life is not worth living. So, you need to have the connections
mhm.
established, understood, and explored for new connections. And yeah, so
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was creating a new little sort of image for my blog, and I was creating something that was using my logo and so forth, and I had it all I had it almost, and I realized there was something missing, and
mm,
I finally realized what it was that was missing, and it was relationships. So you and I must be on the same wavelength these days. so, so I'm so glad you were able to make it, because I know
glad to be.
there are
Yes.
days that you're not available. So I
Yeah,
I understand that. So
thank you.
great,
Glad to be here.
yeah. So Anna, I think you were the next one.
Hi, my name is Anna Fernandez, and I actually live in Mazatlan, but this summer I'm spending 3 months here in Canada. So I'm moving around between BC and Alberta, visiting family and doing some training and things like that. I run a blog that's primarily for snowbirds, and I also have a couple of websites that help out snowbirds and expats with different things that they may need. Interesting thing that happened to me is that no matter how big that wall Trump makes, the, people will still be able to come over, including parasites, which I ended up having. The first 2 weeks after I got here, I was sick, 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 and
Oh
I didn't know
no.
why. And it took 2 weeks for them to figure out a parasite had snuck across that wall with me. So, yeah,
Oh
so that
dear.
was my story. Yeah, so I'm just getting back into the flow of things now. So I missed a couple of weeks here in Canada, but glad to be back. And I bought a
Mhm.
car in Canada this year so I can, travel around without having to bother too many people. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing and seeing people this summer.
All right on. So now, do you plan on driving your car back down to Mexico?
No, no, I'm going to keep it in Alberta at my friend's house. It's just for when I'm in Canada because so many people are, Alberta is far apart. Taking buses
Yeah.
is a pain, and the
Yes.
same when I go to Prince George in northern BC here.
Mhm.
It's too much of a pain to take buses and
Mhm.
rely on other people. So yeah, so that's why I bought it. Yeah,
Mm. Oh, well, and it's true that it seems that my recollection is that Alberta is I mean everything is spread out, and it is very very dependent on having
yeah,
vehicles. Yeah.
yeah. And the town that I'll be storing my car in is a big huge town of 200 people.
Oh,
It's
right.
about 45 minutes outside of Lethbridge. That's where
Uh
my
huh.
best friend stays.
Uh
So,
huh.
yeah, so a car is kind of important.
Yes. Well, just to bring you up to date, I sold my car last summer.
Oh, of course, Victoria, good
Well,
transit.
because I'm living in Cook Street Village.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything I need is right around the corner.
Yeah, which is the same when I'm in Mazatlan. I don't ever need a car there.
Yeah,
Everything, transport is cheap and easy, and
yeah.
yeah. So
Oh dear. So, well, I'm so glad you made it. I don't know whether you realize this, but the little pre-show thing that I have, you are profiled on there.
no.
So you'll have to
Oh,
go
I
and
feel bad. I have to participate now.
you do.
Well, thank you for doing that, and I'm really looking forward to getting back in the groove.
Yeah, right on. So nice to see you back.
Nice to see everyone too.
Yeah. So Nathan, you made it in. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Nathan. I'm coming to you from Bucerias, Nayarit, in Mexico. And my intention is to set up a base here, and I will be down the road from you a ways. About 3 hours, I think. 3 hours from Mazatlan? Not sure. Anyway,
So,
major thing.
so
What?
does
Go
that
ahead.
mean you've moved, Nathan?
Oh hell, I moved out of Canada a long time
No,
ago.
no,
It's
no.
just,
I mean within Mexico, you've moved.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, what happened is I got an offer of a house sit, which I took. I've got another 4 months before I'm done. And a few days ago, I ran into some friends of mine who informed me that there are some people down here looking for people like me to do house sits literally year round. Because there are certain properties where people come back only maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And actually, one of my friends is doing a year-round house sit down here, so I might wind up doing that after this is done. We'll see. I don't know yet. But I mean, I'd wanted to come back here anyway. I have a lot of history in this place. I came here for the first time in 2004, so I know this area quite well. Yeah, so outside of that, the only major thing I've been working on, well, it's been quite a bit of work, is this thing called a TED Talk signature speech. And it's been coming in stages. And what I've realized as of late is that I have like several talks in one, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I know of somebody who can give me a hand with, his purpose is helping people craft a speech that is not salesy. Like, you know how so many people do these webinars and other presentations, and the last 20 minutes is a pitch fest. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that very much. And what this guy specializes in doing is crafting a talk in such a way that people will want to do business with you without you actively pitching them, or at least not pitching them in a particular way. And I like that idea. So,
Well, and I've got a little experience to share shortly.
Okay.
But I just look. This relates to what you just said. So
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I hope that you remember that Fred is
I
an
do,
expert, an expert in that way.
Yeah, Fred and I have been talking about
Oh, good.
that and sending what I have over to him. It's just that right now I'm, like I said, I'm finding myself with something considerably more complicated than I had intended. I had an original intention. Now I've gone in directions that I didn't plan, and I'm just looking at going, what the hell do I do with this? So I will be sending it to Fred at some point. I don't even want to try and speak it yet,
Right.
because I need to sort out the print first. And the print right now is like, my God, what am I going to do with this? Because it brings me to something that if I do talk about part of what I have in a certain way will turn me into a whistleblower, and I'm not sure that I want to don that mantle.
No.
I have some very specific, valuable knowledge, but it could also cause a lot of pain for me, and I'm not sure that I even want to go there.
You need to be careful.
No kidding.
Right on. Well, it's good that you have found some people who will be able to help you with that. So that's good. And that's what I love about this success circle, is that we do make these really great connections. So just before we begin our discussion this morning, I wanted to share with you something that I found out about, or that I participated in, that I think was really worthwhile for me. And that was there was a webinar. It was on at 7 a.m. this morning. By a couple of American lawyers who are specialists in advising people about their websites. They're sort of technology advisors. And they talked about the Federal Trade Commission. It's an American commission. It's backed up by a very extensive act. It has a lot of powers, and what it's there for, what the commission is for, is to protect American consumers. And they talk about the unfair and deceptive practices to prevent those. And we might here in Canada, we might say, or in Mexico, we might say, well, that doesn't apply to me, but it does, because if we're promoting and we have websites that go into America, it does apply to us. So I thought it would make sense to listen in this morning, and there was a lot of discussion around what needs to be in our privacy policies on our websites. If you have a website, you really must have a privacy policy, even if, at some point, I remember somebody saying, well, you only need that if you're selling something or if you're gathering information or whatever. But as Fred and I were chatting before we went live this morning, even if you have a blog site and you invite people to leave a comment and they leave their website and their email address, you should have a privacy policy and state what you do with that information and how you protect it, believe it or not. So this webinar, of course, it went into lots of fear tactics, but I did glean that there was a lot of very useful information in terms of what needs to be in your privacy policy. One of the things they divulged was that when they were looking at this, they went online and started doing research on various websites and discovered that there were thousands of websites that had exactly the same privacy policy, a total duplication, dated 2014. And they were saying that that's not adequate, that the privacy policy needs to reflect exactly what your business is, what your website is about, and how you what you do, how you make use of information, etc. So I won't go into any further detail, but it was something that I invite people to do some research if they have a website and make sure that your privacy policy is up to date. The other thing I want to do is acknowledge that we have a few guests with us on the website right now, and if I can just go in and recognize, I have there's a lady by the name of J.D. Quinetset. I'm probably saying that totally incorrectly.
I have come across that lady before. She prefers to be known as JD.
JD. Oh, thank you very much. Well, she's out there, and welcome, JD. And my friend Dave is out there, Dave Flannery. So I'm very happy to have them. And JD, she responded some time ago about the fact that she had just posted something about her confidence, and she said, "You must have heard me thinking." So it's nice to have some visitors out there. I do have to say though that it's very difficult for me to cover off comments that are in there and still manage a conversation. I'm not a multitasker, I'm afraid. so, but
I disagree. You are.
Well,
you are a better multitasker than you think.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say that. But I want to assure those that are out on the page and entering comments and so forth, I do go in and read, and I do respond later. So, so now, by way of our discussion this morning, I want to first of all give credit to Fred, because I subscribe to his blog, and this week he posted a very inspiring blog for his community, his parent and young people community, but his blog was about confidence. And as I read that, I thought, wow, that's something that not just young people. I mean, his blog was really directed toward what young people need and how we need to pay attention. But my goodness, we all need to pay attention to that. So as I began to think about confidence, I decided that I think that our confidence tends to fluctuate. It goes up and down. And I wondered whether the folks in the green room here would agree from their own experience. Does your confidence stay up there or down there, or do you find that it fluctuates? Any response?
It does fluctuate. I'm saying this from my own experience, and I am usually very confident when it comes to talking about some specific technology.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to talking about relations, human stuff, I'm not that confident, but I'm aware of that fact. I need to do, I need to work on that aspect. So yeah. Realizing existence of a problem is the first step towards
yes, it is.
Solving it. So
yeah. So what about the rest of you? Fred, do you find you're standing in front of, and you're involved with speaking and all of that. Do you find that your confidence fluctuates?
Well, I think what happens is it's a matter of doing and practicing and doing things that you're not comfortable with. And if you haven't done it for a while, it goes down. For example, with speaking, if you miss it for a while and then you get in front of an audience again, even though you've done it many a time and you haven't done it for a while, you find you're a lot more nervous than you would be normally. So it's a matter of just keep doing and practicing whatever it is, whatever area you want. I could tell you a couple stories why I've over the years realized that this is probably the key element in many areas. Very first meeting I went to in Toastmasters, there was a lady, and ultimately I discovered that she was told by another child in a choir when she was probably, let's say, 10 or 12 years old, in that range, "Why are you here? You can't sing." And for years she thought, well, she cannot sing. Ultimately, though, she even did a recording, a CD, but that controlled her for many years. She wouldn't open her mouth because someone had said that. It was a young person. And another person that I met, when she was 9 years old, a teacher, she was from the UK, teacher embarrassed her in front of the room and basically called her stupid in front of the class. And she walked around for decades saying, well, I can't do this because I'm stupid. That one comment controlled her for years. And it was wonderful to see her ultimately overcome that by just practicing. But wow, that was amazing example that I saw, because the first time she tried to speak in front of a group, she wanted to run away and started crying.
Oh my.
But now to see her, because she's been doing it and practicing, you wouldn't recognize her ability. But we can get controlled and lose self-confidence sometimes by something that happens when we're young or even when we're older. So those two examples are very remind me how important it is and what it can be done to us just by sometimes it's a statement that's not even, it's just been made in jest, and an adult doesn't realize, or another child doesn't realize the impact it has on a person. And they lose self-confidence.
Yeah. I can relate extremely well to what Fred is saying, because ironically, as part of writing this speech, this talk, one of the things that I'm like, because of where I came from, a lot of my coping tools were a combination of self-sabotage and amnesia to deal with severe trauma. And my first memory of amnesia in my life was when I was humiliated in front of my grade 5 class when I was 10 years old. And what had happened at the time, but I didn't know it until years later, is I was actually an advanced student. At the time, I was reading my sister's grade 10 textbooks and fully comprehending everything I read. I did a report in front of my class about amoebas. I was humiliated, called a stupid, liar, all this sort of stuff. The teacher did nothing to stop it. It triggered severe shock and the belief that I was stupid. I failed my entire way through high school and junior high school and everything else after that. And then one day when I was standing in the locker room at technical school when I was 23, I was thinking about the work that we were doing, and I was actually doing fairly well with some pretty complex tasks. And while I was standing there, the thought popped into my head, where did I ever get the idea that I was stupid? And then I remembered the amnesia instantly let go, and my mind was flooded with all the memories of the humiliation and the pain in grade 5. It flooded my mind for a while, then it went away. And then after that, my marks skyrocketed. And there was one course that I was taking, which was chemistry. And the reason so what happened is not only did my marks go up, I wound up with the second highest mark on the final exam. I aced the course. And the postscript to it is I failed chemistry in high school because of the self-sabotage and the amnesia. So when people talk about this stuff, I know about it from a different perspective. And one of the worst sources of pain in my life is amnesia to do with severe trauma. And if anybody talks about how the idea that amnesia might be cool, I'm here to tell you that's not. You never want to experience that.
No. I could share the same thing. I have an older brother who's 2 years older than I am, and he called me stupid all of our younger lives. And I went through life thinking I was stupid as well. So I honestly can't think of a time when, like, there was no click that made me say that wasn't true. For me, it was a gradual thing. I just kept on doing things that I wanted to do, and one day I guess I just sort of said, well, if I'm doing this, I can't be that stupid. So I mean, that's I mean, there's some stories that really do illustrate the damage that we can do to other people. And Fred, I could tell you, the choir that I belong to, 3/4 of the people in that choir have shared that they were told that they could not sing. And this choir, the Getting Higher choir, is based on the premise that anyone can sing. And at the end of each season, there are two performances, and those people who can't sing get up on the stage and sing. So, so we know that that's and of course, just to take that a little bit further, a lot of that we learn that singing is not about whether I've got a voice. Singing is our ability to listen. So but getting back to that damage that people can do to one another is really I think as time goes on, we know these things. We're learning these things as people make their studies in psychology, etc., and we kind of learn. So Anna, what about you? Do you find your confidence fluctuates?
For the most part, not a lot. Thank God for that. I think a lot of it's to do with the support that I have around me, my community, my family, that sort of thing, which keeps me buoyant that way. I mean, there are times when, am I doing the right thing? All this, you have self-doubt. And then you start to lose a little confidence because you're not getting the feedback from your community at that particular time. But I'm very fortunate that I had a fairly confident childhood. Went through some rough times during my adolescence, but I think the basis of having a really good childhood where your family boosted your ego and confidence and all that sort of thing, it held me up, because during those hard times during the adolescence, I was able to come out the other side still with a lot of it intact and regained it over the years too. Like Fred said, going to that Toastmasters, that I did that several years ago, and I still need to get back into that. I loved it. But that was a huge, huge boost for anybody that's shy or anything like that. It really, really helps a lot. Programs like that. So, yeah.
Well, interesting that you point up adolescence, because I mean, I don't think there's a human being that doesn't go through a difficult time in their adolescence. That's for sure. I heard you starting to speak up, Vivek. I'm sorry. I
just have I have a question, which is, okay, somebody tries to inflict an insult onto you. What if you don't take any insults at all? What happens to that then? If you're not insulted by anything that anybody says, you hear it from this ear, let it go from the other, carry on as you, then what happens to the person who is trying to insult you? The insult goes back to them.
Well, I mean, it's a question of whether we take things personally. I think, and I would guess that whether we take things that are said to us personally probably depends a bit on our personality style. If you look at all of the 9 Enneagram personality styles, I mean, I think that each one of those 9 personalities would react to feedback in a different way. But I mean, that's something that all of us need to practice and learn, is how not to take feedback personally or insults personally. Yeah. It's hard.
It gets easier as you get older.
Yes.
You start giving less of a damn.
You are so right about that, Anna. I mean, am I overweight? Am I this or am I that? I don't give a shit. Pardon my vernacular. You're right about that.
Was that former First Lady or Roosevelt or something, someone like that, who said that nobody can insult you without your permission?
That's a good thing to to remember, especially when the insult occurs. So, but I have a couple of other questions here that I think might be worthwhile. So, Vivek, you sort of answered it a little bit. So if your confidence goes down a bit, it's when you realize that something is happening in relation to relationships and whatever. But and I think Fred, you said, well, when you haven't done something for a while, or you haven't challenged yourself, or so those are a couple of things. But I'm wondering what else. So when you feel your confidence slipping, can you recognize any other things? I know for me, when there's no business coming through the door, that's when my confidence starts to slide, and I think, so what am I doing wrong? And I usually find that question to myself is not a valuable one. The better question is, what do I need to be doing? What's my current situation, and what do I need to be doing? So that's a technique that has, usually helps me over that. But what about everybody else? I mean, are there other situations where today, right now, today, when you feel your confidence slipping?
Well, Anne, if I may
Mm-hmm.
make a couple suggestions. I have a question first. I only see Vivek for some reason. I'm not seeing the other people when they speak, although on your website it's coming up. But I don't know, has he been highlighted? Because I haven't highlighted him, but I only see
No,
him.
no.
Okay. I don't know why. I don't know if everybody else is, but for some reason I don't see the others when they're speaking.
I think there's a setting up there that, and I
It's
just
on the right side corner.
Yes.
Corner of the screen, it should be
It's on your machine, Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the gallery view? Because there's a little
There is
box with 9
speaker
squares
view.
in it.
I put speaker view as the option. So
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know it's working, but for some reason on my screen it wasn't.
You were only
Okay.
seeing one person. Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was only seeing Vivek, and I was hoping that was only for me, and that was.
Right.
But I know checking the website it was working. The other thing I'd suggest is there's a few items on my blog post that might be relevant that I could, if I share my screen,
Mm-hmm.
just
Please do.
might answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
So let me try and do that. Say share screen and see if I can choose it. Where's that blog post? I think that's no. No, I have to find the right one. Select the window. Where is it? I'm gonna desktop and hope that's the right one. And okay, are you seeing the screen where it says facts about confidence?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'll just run through this.
Oh, I was so hoping you would do that. And also, Fred, before we forget, when this is over, I hope you will go in and put a link to your blog. I think you also shared that on Google Plus this week, because I think it came up. So for the benefit of those that are out there watching and so forth, it would be useful for them to be able to access this. So go ahead. Facts about confidence.
Okay. Well, as it says, it's a state of mind, but it's not something that can be learned. Say, okay, I'm going to go and study it. It's more. It is a mental thing, and it comes when we do something that we're out of our comfort zone, and face our fears. And again, it comes from doing, and I think that's been brought up quite a bit. We have to do these things, even though we're not always happy about it, so we try it. That's the same, like you said, I'm not getting clients. Well, why? Well, there's certain things you're not doing. Let's start again. And also to try something new, and that can be a lot of fun. You were talking about singing earlier. About it was a year and a half ago. I took singing lessons, and it was a lot of fun. It was because I never said, "Oh, I can't sing," but exactly what you said about the getting higher choir. Exactly that same thing. It was an enormous amount. So just try things. Even though you say, "Oh, I can't do it," you'd be amazed what you can do. And once you've done that, you get a little bit of self-confidence. You feel well, and
Yeah. Can I
you get
stop you? Can I stop
yes.
you just for a minute? I had a similar experience. I went to a thing called paint night here in Victoria, and I painted a hummingbird, which I thought was a piece of crap. But just for fun, I posted it on Instagram. You wouldn't believe the number of people that posted something that said, "Oh, that's such a cute hummingbird," and I went, "Oh my word!" That's the first time I ever had a paintbrush in my hand.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I also went to paint night once. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Try something different.
Yeah.
And as it says, it's not a destination; it's the journey. And you allow yourself to have as many experiences as possible: painting, singing, whatever. And the benefits are, of course, it removes the self-doubt. That's why I guess as we get older, we realize, hey, I can do the stuff that maybe I thought I couldn't do, and help us overcome a lot of challenges and reduce fear and anxiety, because we realize we can do that. And I can relate to that in Toastmasters. Because of that and doing things that I never thought I would do, you end up stepping into other places saying, "Oh, I'll try that. I've never done it, but I'll try that." It really does change your life once you have a bit of self-confidence. Say, "Hey, what's the worst that can happen? It's not normally terrible." And so you get less social anxiety, which was what Vivek said, once again. Yeah, more peace of mind, increases your energy, motivation, better interactions with others. You get a bit of, value what your capabilities are. You become a healthier and happier person, and you're a lot more successful. So those are the reasons why and what to do. But it's really just get out of your comfort zone, I guess, is really the thing. Do things. And that's when you're down, say, "Okay, what can I do now?" It can be something small. I do indoor rowing, and I competed, and I never competed anything in my life as far as sports are concerned. And indoor rowing is rowing on a rowing machine. But I've done so many things now. I held a world record for a long time. I've got a gold medal and a silver medal from the Canadian Indoor Rowing Championships, and I've been into the World Championships in Boston twice. But I never, ever, ever thought I would do anything like that. It was just once I thought, why not try this? It's taken me a lot further than I ever dreamt of going. So it's amazing when you just try different things.
You're so right. And again, sharing a personal story. When I started doing these video success circles, doing a hangout on air is where I began, and took the instruction from Ronnie Bincer, who some of you will remember that name. I never thought, I think this is 4 years ago now, I never thought that I would still be doing this. And that whole concept of practice that you mentioned, Fred, I mean, I have done this success circle every Tuesday ever since. So, if the more you do it, the more your confidence develops, and I mean, mistakes can happen. There have been some sessions that were not successful. Something happened, but you just roll with it and keep on going.
Can I make an observation?
Yes, please. And Fred, maybe you could. Keep it there. Okay.
I just was reading through the Facing Your Fears, Action Inspire Confidence, and so on. Quite a lot of that, one could replace that word confidence with life. and it would still be correct. Life is a journey.
Oh yes, I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, and I mean, life is full of changes, isn't it? I mean, that's what life is. And I find it so interesting that so many people resist and reject change. And yet, as we respond to change, you know, I mean, part of that is overcoming the fear of whatever, you know, the unknown or whatever. It's, yeah.
As I would say that if you resist change, you're inviting death.
Right. Right.
My favorite saying is, "Move with the times, or the times will
I'll
move
move
you."
you. That's a good one too. Oh yes. So, and I mean, on a sort of a wider scale, I mean, and this is a topic that seems to be come up in the newspapers here in Victoria all the time. They've implemented bike lanes on numerous main streets here, and in the newspaper they're going on and on and on about how dangerous they are, and that and that and that and that. And I was noticing the other day, it's amazing the number of people who are now starting to bike to work and starting to bike across the new bridge, and who are doing all these things, and yet this town was just reacting like you wouldn't believe against all these bike lanes. And our mayor, who has recognized the need for less vehicle, less fossil fuel use, all of that. She was really doing something very proactive to try to mitigate some of those negative things, and then you know the reaction was very, very negative, and yet we're now beginning to see that it was the right thing to do. So I mean, you can see these on a very, very small micro level, on a personal level, or even on a macro level on in your own community. So it's it's amazing. So we've talked about when we feel as though our confidence goes down. Nathan, what about you? I mean, do you what do you notice any particular time in the present that you feel your confidence going down?
Well, sure. Confidence is dynamic. It's not a static thing,
Yeah.
and it changes all the time. But I have, I actually posted on your post about this over the weekend to do with confidence. I guess you didn't see it, but I have an ace in the hole when it comes to this kind of stuff, because one of the most powerful tools that I have at my disposal for changing your state very quickly is something called an anchor, which comes out of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which I've been using for many, many years. And if you know how to create anchors, you can create them for anything in your life where you want an improvement. And actually, when I created a course a little while ago on setting effective boundaries with abusive people in all areas of life, one of the things that I also created as part of the course is a confidence building exercise, which is actually, I call it confidence on demand. You can literally program your mind and your body so that if you are in a situation where you need confidence, all you would do is do something with a posture, or like tapping the side of your leg or something like that, where you create this process called anchoring. And I can explain it if you guys want to know about it. But if I can teach someone how to anchor confidence on demand in about 10 minutes. And once you know this thing, once you learn it and embody it, you can use it whenever you want, whenever you need confidence. And when you activate that through your mind, your neurology, by tapping that part of yourself or holding your fingers in a certain way, whatever it is, your state will change literally within seconds. And you will have that inner power that you want to have. So I'll give you an example of where I've been using it for a number of years. A number of years ago, I learned a type of meditative state where I could go into long periods of very intense silence. While I was in that state, I wanted to create an anchor for myself to make it easy for me to get back to that if I wound up in periods of stress. Now, I'm not going to show you exactly what I did, but the step in the right direction was I did something with my hands in a particular way that I wouldn't normally do. And when I activate that anchor, what happens is I immediately straighten up, take a very deep breath, and literally within seconds, I enter into the stillness and silence. The anchors can be used anywhere, and people use anchors all the time. We're just not aware of it. We do positive and negative anchors, and we actually cause ourselves a tremendous amount of grief in our lives because we've accidentally created a negative anchor, which causes us sorrow. So an example would be if somebody's suffering a terrible amount of grief of loss. One of the last things you want to do is touch them in that case, because if you do, and you touch them in the wrong way, you could actually create a negative anchor. For example, touching them on the knee in a certain way. So later, if they were feeling fine, you were having a conversation, you touch them in that way, you could trigger the grief and all the sadness and sorrow. And so if that happens, then you have to go through a process in NLP, which is called collapsing the anchors. And so, like I said, it can be extremely powerful, positive or negative, and very, very useful. So,
is that similar to? I think I've read about people wearing an elastic band around their wrist and maybe just snapping the elastic band when they wanted to remember.
Actually, yeah, that would work.
Yeah,
that would definitely work.
Yeah, I've read about that.
Yeah, sure. That would be an example of an anchor. Yeah.
Yeah, I have an example as well, which Nathan, thank you very much for mentioning that. That's wonderful.
You're welcome. I was sure it would be a benefit.
Yeah, it is a great benefit. There's a, I think it's a TED Talk as well, but there's a lady who talks about the power pose, and I've used it. And when I coach people in speaking, public speaking, you're going to talk to a group. You can stand at the back of the room, put your hands on your hips, and take a deep breath and look around, and as if you're Superman, you know, or Superwoman. And say, I own this, these are all my friends, and this is it. Take those deep breaths. But that pose with your hands on your hips, and in seconds, you can just calm down and feel. It just makes wonderful, exactly what Nathan was saying. Within seconds, it just make you feel so different and powerful and positive about what you're about to do. It's amazing. And I've used it, and know others who've used it. And that comes from a TED Talk. Exactly what you're saying. So that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, so everything that I'm mentioning comes from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. The thing that caused me to recover from PTSD was a discussion I had with my coach. And we were talking about anchors at the time. Now, at the time, like, one of the things that you can do in NLP, if you have like a recurring voice in your mind, is imagine that you're turning a volume knob down. And for many people that works. And I was talking with Hamish about it, and he said, well, you've got part of it, but you're missing a big piece. You're missing a piece. I didn't say a big piece. I said, you're missing a piece. And I said, great. What do I need to do? And he said, you need to go out there into the world, and you need to find yourself one of those old style radios. You know, one of those ones with a big knob on the front for the volume control. And he said, and it's got to be a radio where you're going to get rid of it when you're done with this exercise. So what he told me to do is this, to buy the radio, bring it home, set it up, turn it on, make sure it was between stations, and turn it up to full. So lots of static, lots of noise, everything else. And then with the problem that I was dealing with is what I call the inner war, where I was fighting mental battles against people who were abusive to me. I was desperate to stop it because it drove me nuts, and it went on for decades. Anyway, so what he told me is to do that, and and at the same time as the radio is at full volume, to imagine the war in my mind at full intensity. And then as I turn down the volume on the radio, to turn down the noise in my mind. And so the postscript to it is I went in search of an old radio. I couldn't find one. Came home and was feeling rather disappointed about the whole thing. Then I realized I had an old radio in my car that I never used. And somebody stole the aerial off my car years ago, and I never cared because I never listened to the radio. So I went downstairs, got into my car, started the engine, punched the power knob for the radio. And since there was no aerial, plenty of static. And what was cool about the radio is that it had detents. I don't know if you know what those are. But when you turn a knob, detents are little places where it kind of locks as you go around, and that was really cool. So I had those. I turned it up to full, and I imagined the war in my mind. And then I gradually started turning it down, turning down the noise in my mind. And then I hit 0, punched the power knob to turn it off the engine, got out of my car, and instant silence. The war in my head instantly ended. And at the same time, there were several other things that also ended. And I knew it at the time, but I didn't know what had happened. And it wasn't until 10 days later when I spoke with Hamish that I discovered that what had happened to me was not what I was calling trauma bullying. It was something called PTSD, which I suffered from for most of my life. And when we did that exercise, not only did it wipe out the inner war, it also wiped out the symptoms of hypervigilance, flashbacks, nightmares, everything else that I had to do with what I was suffering from. All of it instantly stopped. It's been more than a year now, and I feel fine. You know? It just, I thought I was going to die from this, and it instantly ended. And later, when I would have the odd flare-up, I would use the radio in my car again to help bring it down. And then I got to a point where I just didn't need it anymore.
So it really
extremely powerful.
Yeah. So it really, it really points up the fact that visualization is how it's the brain is such an interesting thing, isn't it? And we can use visualization in so many ways, so many positive ways. And of course, there's the age-old one that comes out of the spiritual tradition. When something is bothering you, stop and just breathe.
Well, there's that.
Slowly.
Which may or may not have it may or may not have the effect that you want. But if you know something like anchoring, and you know, like just these very brief examples, but you learn the technique, you will be able to change so many things in your life so fast you wouldn't believe it. And the thing with the confidence on demand thing, you do that thing enough times, you're not going to need to do it, because it will change your neurology so much that you won't need to think about it. You'll just go up, the stage will be there. And the thing that's really cool about some of these anchors is once you get them to a certain point, all you have to do is think about it. Or as Fred was saying, stand in that power position. Instantly, everything changes. So that's what I mean by confidence on demand. But it's not just confidence. It could be a whole ton of other things. Like me, meditation on demand. And it works like a charm. So
yes, I really agree about that posture thing.
It's one of many ways.
I know from my own experience, if I find, if I put my shoulders back and sit up really straight, that has a huge psychological impact.
It definitely will, because it's like, like one of the things that people talk about to do with depression. Okay, and I know this from direct experience. When you're in depression, one of the things you're doing is your head is down, you tend to be looking at the ground, your shoulders are rounded, you're breathing shallowly, you're moving slowly, everything's focused inward, blah, blah, blah. One very fast way to change your state, look up.
Yeah.
Look up above the horizon. I guarantee you, if you do it even for a couple of seconds, you can't be depressed if you're doing it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work. I don't know why, but it doesn't work.
Yeah. So, So I think we've covered a number of techniques here, and I'm also looking that noticing that we are at the top of the hour. But just before we end, Anna, any closing for any of you? Any closing observation that you would like to share?
All I can say is create a good community around. I think that helps a lot. Believe in what you're doing, and create the community around that. Helps a lot because it doesn't matter how great a speaker you are. I'm sure some of the top speakers in the world are sure to get down once in a while or lose their sense of confidence. And I know it's their community or their family, whatever it is you want to call it, family, etc.
Excuse me, Nathan. Could you mute because your fan is blocking out?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, Anna. I really I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Okay. So basically, that to reach out to the community that you've built around you, and to always have that community. It takes a while to build in some cases, but it's very helpful. And do not ever be shy about reaching out. Do not ever be shy about saying you need help. That sort of thing, as well as giving back. So we all of us, I think, like to give to our communities, and that's a noble thing. But sometimes we may need help, and we should be able to reach back out to that same community that we give to. And you'll be surprised about how many people will help you and boost you back up again. Yeah.
Oh, you are so correct, Anna, and I'm so glad you brought that up. I was noticing one of my neighbors is very, very elderly. She's 98, and I've been noticing that I've been noticing that she's kind of depressed lately. And I had a conversation with a specialist who said, there's 2 or 3 things that will bring about depression for elders, and two of them: lack of community, lack of connection with people. So our community is so important to us.
Yeah, very much.
And the other piece I think is worth emphasizing is never be afraid to ask for help. Because we all need help once in a while, help or support. Yeah. So, well, this has been a very interesting conversation, and I hope that the viewers will have gotten something from this. This has taken a little bit different turn from our usual success circles, but confidence is so important for all of us in what we're doing. So, Fred, again, I want to thank you for sharing your article, and the fact that you shared it with me in the first place, that gave me the inspiration to do this. So I want to now say to everyone that we are going to close now, and I will be circulating the final piece of the closeout here, and for those of us in the green room, if you would like to stay around for further discussion, that would be just fine. So what I want to do is just remember, or ask everyone to remember, it's important to do what you love with passion. So now what do I do here? Controls.